So I want to offer a few words about the political establishment, local county political establishments in Kentucky. So first of all, side note, I mean, it's actually by design that many Kentuckians are poor, and so therefore they don't have any internet. And I mean, there's many Kentuckians that don't even have running water. 1 million poor people, at least, in this state out of 4.3 million. So, you know, they don't have running water. They're still shitting in outhouses, let alone having some high-speed internet. But you know what? There's plenty of people who do have internet. And those people that have the internet seem to not give a shit about those who don't. Circuit court judges, district court judges make $115,000 per year. $115,000. The median income in Owsley County is $10,000 per year. So circuit court judges are making $115,000. So that's 11 Owsley Countyans in one salary. Circuit court judges are lawyers, so they have political power, plenty of money for whatever they need, all the insurance that they could ever want. They make lucrative pensions. They live comfortable lives, throwing poor, ignorant, powerless folks into jail. Capitalism by itself makes sure that there's a poverty class by design. Someone has to do the dumb labor. Someone has to sweep the floors. So I guarantee you that the political establishment will be watching this. But I'm not for sure if the people I'm trying to reach out to will hear this. But I guarantee you the political establishment is watching. So all 120 counties in Kentucky are essentially made up of the same politicians. All of them have judge executives, legislators, their magistrates or commissioners, soil and water conservation district supervisors, sheriffs, constables, jailers, county clerks, circuit court clerks, district judges, circuit court judge, county attorney, commonwealth attorney, and their towns have mayors, council people, and maybe local police officers, and some other positions I may have forgotten. And every 4 years, virtually all of them are up for re-election, and many of them have no requirements except for residency requirements and a filing fee. So all that it takes to run for office in Kentucky is to have lived in your district for a year or so. You have to check out the specific residency requirements, a filing fee, and a signature. That's it. So to run for office, really all a Kentuckian needs is gumption, some courage. That's all they need. That's the very best way to prevent corruption in your county. Throw the bums out and then replace them with good, honest, decent, working-class folks. The way the American system of government is set up is that we have 3 branches of government, the executive, judicial, and legislative. It's set up that way so that we don't have tyranny, so that one branch doesn't hold absolute authority for checks and balances. Many folks think that the police work for the judicial branch, and it can seem that way, but they don't. Police officers are part of the executive branch of government. So for Laurel County, the local executive would be the judge executive. And, of course, there's the governor, who actually holds virtually all the power in the state. County governments only operate at the behest of the state government. So the way our local system works is like, the judge executive is the one who enforces the laws. Executive, they execute the laws in the county, and they make sure that their laws are enforced. There's some disagreement over who has more power, the sheriff or the judge executive, but it's supposed to be the judge executive. But that determination can be left up to the county attorney, as was evident in Jackson County, Kentucky, when the sheriff arrested the judge executive. The county attorney believed that the sheriff held all the powers of arrest, and so therefore erred on the side of the sheriff over the judge executive. Okay, so the judge executive also has another way of enforcing their laws. Let's say if the local county sheriff doesn't enforce the laws the way the judge executive wants him to enforce the laws. The judge executive controls the budget. So the judge executive can cut the sheriff's budget. The judge executive can also establish their own county police force, one which will enforce the county's laws. The magistrates or the commissioners write the laws. In local county government, you get the legislative branch, which are your magistrates, sometimes called commissioners. The judge executive signs those written laws and budget and enforces those laws, and then the district and circuit court judges judge the laws. So legislative, executive, judicial branch. When the police sees a person, say they're, committing a crime, breaking into a person's house, they catch the thief, arrest them, charge them, and jail them. Usually that person can bond out, putting some money down to make sure they come to court, and then they go to court where they get their day in court. Everybody is supposed to get their day in court. The reason we have judges judge these cases is to make sure that the police officers are not terrorizing folks. They can't just frivolous arrest and charges. The judge is supposed to be a non-biased, neutral third party, more of a referee. And everybody in America is supposed to be considered, everybody in America are innocent until they're proven guilty, beyond a reasonable doubt. But unfortunately, many times it doesn't actually work that way, especially in Kentucky. We're the #1 most corrupt state in the nation, according to a recent Harvard report. So what I'm trying to say is that the tail can wag the dog. The thin blue tail can wag the political establishment dog. In the case of Samantha Ramsey in Boone County, after the Boone County Sheriff's deputy shot and killed Samantha Ramsey over non-compliance, the political establishment rushed to cover it up. They appointed a special prosecutor to present the case to the grand jury. They had waited over a year until after the elections before they convened that grand jury, because they didn't want to present the grand jury's findings until after the election, because the political establishment wanted to keep their jobs. And they were able to do so. The grand jury, not surprisingly, failed to indict Tyler Brockman, the cop who shot and murdered Samantha Ramsey. Tyler Brockman wasn't indicted, nor was he arrested by any law enforcer, nor did anybody issue an arrest warrant on him. The tail can wag the dog. The tail is wagging the dog. The thin blue tail is wagging the local political establishment dog. So even though the police officers are supposed to be under the executive branch, and then their arrests are judged by the district or circuit court judge, supposed to be neutrally, right, non-biased third party, many times the local political establishment follows the police officer's lead. Some county attorneys actually believe that it's their job to defend the police officers, which is incorrect. That's what nepotism and corruption does. Nepotism, corruption is when you care about, just your friends and family and nobody else. That's what corruption looks like. So the way it's supposed to be, the way it's supposed to work would be a good system, because the police officer and his character would be put on trial for every arrest that he or she makes. So when their arrest goes to a bench or jury trial, the police officer's action is also suspect, and they'll have to defend their actions for that particular incident. It'd be like hearing about two people who got into a fight, and then you figured out who was in the right and then who was in the wrong. Even a great police officer who's made great decisions for 20 years, 99% of the time, can make a mistake. Everybody's people. And, when you have power, that's, it'll happen, my point. So it doesn't matter how good or great you are, humans make mistakes. So the prosecutor and the judge is supposed to determine every case based on their own merits. Every accused person is innocent until proven guilty, proven beyond a reasonable doubt. That's assuming the process is coming from an impartial and fair criminal justice system. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is only a few folks in the county knows what's going on, and so they therefore rule the county. The so-called courthouse clique. The courthouse clique is the one that rules the county. Who controls the courthouse controls the county. Also, the educational system doesn't teach civics, so only the self-educated will be able to figure all this out. A corrupt local courthouse clique system will stack the deck against those who are accused, bully them into compliance so they all feel like they're doing something useful for themselves, for the county, for the voters, for whoever. Just for whatever, they charged with a crime, then they'll want you to at least plea bargain even some tiny, crime just to save face. So it's all about just gathering as many convictions as possible, just racking all those convictions up. And so when I hear about judges who brag about how many convictions that they've secured, that doesn't I don't like that. That doesn't mean diddly shit to me. Just because you screwed over a lot of people's lives. Were they criminal? Were they actually doing bad things, or are you just, anybody that's accused of a crime, you're just fucking them up? And I think that's total bullshit. When I hear about a judge or prosecutors who brag about how many convictions that they've enforced, that's a tyrannical piece of shit, and they've probably hurt many people's lives. The courthouse clique, the clerks, cops, judge executive, district, circuit, court, judge, sheriff, constables, all want to feel like they're doing something important. They're all buddy-buddy, and many times they're all on the same side. The prosecutor and the judge have each other's backs and the police officer's backs, so the court system is more like a slaughterhouse, where the police victimized is further victimized by a prosecutor and judge who is friends with the police officers. And the judge executive can feel like they're completely out in the dark, for this entire process. So even the public pretender is corrupt because they have to maintain a relationship with the county attorney to help them get plea bargains for their many clients. And they're also usually, overworked. So on paper, our system seems like it should work, but most of the time it doesn't. Sometimes violent criminals, rapists, murderers, thieves get their just desserts. But also many innocents get caught in the gears and get churned into butter, get turned into minced meat due to their ignorance and powerlessness to the system, due to the corruption of the courthouse clique for not having enough money to pay for a good lawyer, or for all three reasons. Misdemeanor charges can take years off of a person's life, and even if a police officer was in the wrong to save face, the prosecutor will try to get the defendant, the accused, to cop out on a plea deal. And due to time restraints, lack of money, lack of connections, powerlessness, ignorance, the innocent will just hurry up and accept it. They have to get back to their jobs just so they can get the whole criminal justice system over and done with, in spite of their innocence. We need more honorable men in positions of power in our courthouses, working class people in our judge executives' offices, in our jailer and police officer uniforms. We need less oppressors and less slaughterhouses. We should leave the slaughterhouses for the pigs. If you don't turn on politics, politics can turn on you. Since the thin blue tail can wag the local political establishment dog, since the local thin blue line goons can force the executive and the legislative and the judicial branch to their wills, it's important for all the citizens in all 120 counties in Kentucky to understand who their local, who the thin blue tail is. Who's the thin blue tail? Who makes up the thin blue tail? It's important to know. Gatewood Galbraith said we lived in a police state, and we shouldn't. If we have honest folks in office in democracies that work, the military is supposed to be subordinate to the civilian political establishment, and that's how the police are supposed to operate too. But if the executive, legislative, and the judicial branch are all covering up the asses of the thin blue tail, well, then that means that the police are rogue and control the whole shebang, and they do as they please and just wait for the rest of the political establishment to catch up, to cover their asses up. They're not subordinate to the political establishment. The political establishment is subordinate to them, and that's tyranny. That's Egypt, a society controlled by an Occupy army, the main oppressors for the 1%, the bankers, corporations, and the aristocratic elite. That's how you'd know if you had police who actually protected you. They'd be arresting the wealthy for white-collar crimes, bankers for stealing, landlords, other oppressors. Just, the stealing is a crime. It doesn't matter if you're wealthy or not. Stealing, rape, murder, violence, these are all, these are like the four worst evils out there. And it shouldn't matter who you are. You should not be able to get away with the worst crimes out here just because you're in a position of authority or because you have some money. In Kentucky counties, there's sheriffs and there's their deputies, sometimes county police. So the thin blue tail is essentially the sheriffs in the respective counties, their deputies, sometimes county police officers who are separate from the sheriff's office, and then you'll have constables, and then you'll have local city and town police officers. That's looking at the county by itself. So take Laurel County, you'll have your sheriff, your constables, and possibly the county police officers, but in London, you have your own city police officers. And so I think making, a list of the thin blue tail, so who are these people who are defending the bankers 1%, the aristocratic elite. That's important to know, because the thin blue tail can wag the local political establishment. So we can also look at the bigger picture. So if we add the state governments, boys in blue, and other executive, see, the fuller picture, it's not just the local government, but also the state authority. Local governments only act on behest of the state government. And so, you got the state governments, the KSP, boys in blue, and you got other executive branch offices, such as the Health and Family Services. So the KSP has jurisdiction over all 120 counties. The KSP can arrest a sheriff or a constable, and the Health and Family Services also have executive authority, which is why they're able to take people's kids away for child abuse, since their power and authority comes straight from Frankfort. The state, aka the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Kentucky counties are administrative units to the state. So the state is central, but they allow the local governments to, do. If you want to see even fuller picture, then you got the feds. And then that's a whole nother ball of complicated wax, which I don't even really fully understand myself. With so many politicians, political leaders being paid with their tax dollars, you'd think some of these bastards could actually let us know what the fuck is going on. Nepotism is a bitch. So just remember, the thin blue tail can wag the local political establishment dog. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. The police officers are part of the executive branch. They are not to be rogue. They're not just doing whatever, they please. So if you get, if there's the sheriff's office and they have their deputies and somebody is elected into a position of power, they may go along with those who are there before them. But that's not the way it should be. We have 3 branches of government for a reason, and things should be fair. But they're not.